focus on the miracle of the oil. But on the other hand, I really appreciate what you explained, that first day wasn't a miracle. It was natural. We found that oil, and it should have burnt for one day. Why are we celebrating 8 days? We should really be celebrating 7. But the message of understanding that we're celebrating not only that miracle, but we're celebrating nature, meaning we're trying to celebrate all the parts of our lives that are, so to speak, natural just because they happen regularly, and we take them for granted and we don't appreciate them. And that's a very powerful message. And what you're saying too, in terms of feeling God's love, the more we can open up our eyes to recognize all of the gifts that we have in our day-to-day lives that oftentimes we just don't stop and think about, the more we will feel God's love. We will feel so loved by God, but it takes us, meaning someone can love you and give to you and share, but if you don't appreciate it, recognize it, aren't aware of it, don't think about it all that much, it's not going to affect you so much as it will as if you really say, wow, I so appreciate it. Look at what look at what God is doing for me every single day. And it's not just about miracles, it's about the day-to-day things that, you're right, unfortunately, we so take advantage of.
Right. I was thinking the other day about the lights, and, I thought it's like going to a really expensive restaurant. In an expensive restaurant, a really classy restaurant, the lights are very low, and there's these candles, these little tea lights on the table. And why are those lights there? They're not in order to help you read the menu, because if you needed light, they could easily turn the lights on. It's not like they can't afford the electricity. The menu is quite an expensive menu. And so those lights are there because they create this ambience of romance. They're not there to see something. They're there to feel something, to feel that kind of intimate connection. And so it hit me that, these lights are kind of a romantic moment, so to speak, with God. That
is very powerful, because I think with each holiday we do talk about, in a sense, they are like, we have the weekly Shabbat, which is this really amazing island of time where we really have more things slow down, and we really have this ability to connect more to our Creator, connect more to God, and about the importance of what our life is all about. And yet the holidays are this other amazing opportunity. Every holiday we discuss that there's a different aspect of the relationship with God that we're really connecting to. And so, in a sense, I think, especially think of human relationships, if you have an anniversary or a birthday or some significant event, when you actually tap into the opportunity, your relationship grows from it. And if you just sort of peruse through it, and it could be a nice opportunity, but you don't do anything to mark the event, you don't think about it, there's no card written, there's no time spent, there's no significant conversation, it's not going to have, it potentially could, but it won't have that opportunity to connect that relationship. And so these holidays, and this unique holiday of Hanukka, with all these concepts ideas you're explaining, and now the lighting atmosphere of really feeling that ambiance, feeling God's presence, it really is an opportunity, and we have it for 8 nights.
Yeah, it's interesting because in Israel, I live in the old city, and this year maybe a little bit less, but every year, thousands of people from all over Israel come to the old city just to look at the lights. It's interesting how this holiday, of all holidays, really captures the heart of not just the religious, but the most secular people find something very special about those little lights, and they wander through the streets of the old city of Jerusalem and looking at the various, displays of people's lights. And it is what everybody's looking for. Everybody's looking for the light and the love of their life. And Hanukkah captures that feeling that there's miracles, that there's hope, that even in the darkness, there's still a chance, and that we're not alone, and that the Creator did not abandon us. Even in the harshest times where we are almost sure that there is no chance, there's always a chance, because God, who made the rules, He can break the rules, and He will for us.
And this really is an amazing opportunity to strengthen, and whether it needs to be reconnecting our relationship with God or strengthening our relationship with God. And what I so appreciate is sometimes we think we need something really big to get us going. And what you're sharing here is that there's something beautiful, I think, about the lights, and that they're so simple. And it's also something that is so simple in order to reconnect and to connect to Hashem during this time period, is just all the things that you have in your life already that are good. we just have to focus on them. We just have to appreciate them. Just staring at the lights, not because we need the light, but because we're just appreciating the gift of the light. And this really is this amazing opportunity that we have now to really both reflect on our lives, reflect on how we can increase the light in our lives, which really comes down to, I appreciate, again, it's about us. It's about what am I going to focus on? Am I going to focus on this relationship, the aspects of the gifts and the love that God has given to me, and I'm going to then be filled up with more light inside, and that really is how we dispel any sort of darkness that's going on around us. I want to thank you all for joining us. Soul Talk, Rabbi David Aaron and Leora Mandel.
Shalom, this is Rachel from Jerusalem, Israel, and I love Israel News Talk Radio because they give me local news and international news every hour, so I am always caught up on what is happening here in Israel and around the world.
Hi, this is David Boothroyd from Richland, Washington. I love listening to Israel News Talk Radio because I find it thought-provoking and it gives me a glimpse of life in Israel.
This is Avi Rosenberg in Las Vegas, Nevada, and you can bet on Israel News Talk Radio.
Bonjour, this is Esther from France, and listening to Israel News Talk Radio keeps me connected to Israel and everything about Israel. Israel News Talk Radio, c'est super!
Hi, my name is Modeste Karakawe, and I'm from Rwanda, now living in Sweden. I'm a regular listener to Israel News Talk Radio. I enjoyed the shows very much and listen to the live stream. You never know what is going to happen.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
I'm Mordecai Sones, and this is your daily news report from Israel News Talk Radio. IDF technicians Sunday were sent to perform maintenance on intelligence devices east of Israel's border fence on the Israel-Syria-Jordan border. The accompanying armed force returned, closed the gates, and left the four, 3 male soldiers and a female soldier with no combat training, outside Israel's border fence for an hour, though still within Israeli territory. Circumstances are under investigation. Israel Hayom Sunday published a poll claiming only 44% of Israelis are willing to explicitly declare willingness to submit to the COVID-19 vaccine that is to be administered starting next week. 37% of Israelis, including doctors, former vaccine supporters, and even one former health minister, will refuse to chance the vaccine, representing about 4 million people. Meanwhile, Tzohar Rabbinical Organization Ethics Center head Rabbi Yuval Sherlow Sunday claimed there is room to consider imposing sanctions on people who refuse to submit to the COVID-19 vaccine. Sherlow said the restrictions must be only as relevant and as narrow in scope as possible, due to the fact that imposing severe restrictions is actually tantamount to forcing the vaccine. Kan News Sunday reported that coronavirus commissar Professor Nachman Ash admitted in closed discussion that the National Security Agency has decided not to enforce government COVID-19 orders in the mosques on the Temple Mount. In leaked recordings from the end of last week, Ash can be heard speaking with IDF Homefront Command Eastern Jerusalem Control Center Commander General Ben-Tzvi Eliassi. The two were discussing last week's Temple Mount Friday prayers that had around 18,000 participants. Ash and Eliassi can be heard admitting there is basically nothing they can do to enforce government orders in such a situation with so many people gathered. After announcing Thursday an historic normalization deal between Israel and Morocco, Israeli officials Sunday hinted that the Sultanate of Oman will be the next country to formalize ties with Israel. If a deal is reached, Oman would be the fifth Muslim-majority nation to establish diplomatic relations with Israel over the last 4 months, after the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco. The United States ambassador to Rabat Saturday said the U.S. adopted a new official map of Morocco that includes Western Sahara. Meanwhile, Algeria's Prime Minister Abdelaziz Gerad Saturday criticized what he described as foreign maneuvers he said were aimed to destabilize Algeria. The comments came after Washington recognized Morocco's sovereignty over Western Sahara in exchange for Rabat normalizing ties with Israel. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence is expected to arrive in Israel a few days before the anticipated inauguration of Joe Biden. The planned date is currently January 13th. Israeli officials have said there are 2 more countries that may be able to settle relations even before Trump leaves the White House. Inspectors from the Agriculture Ministry Central Unit for Enforcement, Investigations, and Rural Development Sunday uncovered 35 crates containing 300 kilograms of strawberries originating in Gaza during an operation in Jerusalem's wholesale market in Givat Shaul. The strawberries were packed in boxes bearing fake stickers to mislead the public, falsely representing the strawberries as grown in Israel. And now we'll look at the weather.
The forecast is brought to you by JewishPress.com. For Jewish news you can trust.
Monday will be partly cloudy. Strong winds will prevail in the south with a chance of haze. Isolated showers and thunderstorms will begin midday in the east and south with a chance of rain in the north and west as well. There's a high risk of flash floods in the eastern and southern wadis. It will stop raining overnight. Tuesday will be partly cloudy with a significant drop in temperatures. Isolated showers and thunderstorms are expected beginning in the afternoon, mainly in the north and along the coast. Strong southwesterly winds will prevail with a chance of haze, mainly in the south. During the night, the rain will intensify and spread to the center and northern Negev. There is a risk of flooding and flash floods. Wednesday will see occasional showers and thunderstorms from the north to the central Negev with a chance of rain in the Arava and southern Negev. There's a risk of flash floods in the eastern and southern wadis and a risk of flooding in the coastal plain. Strong winds will prevail with an additional drop in temperatures. On this week's Soul Talk program, host Rabbi David Aaron discusses the life-changing concepts integral to the holiday of Hanukkah that can transform our lives.
Drama is this stark contrast between dark and light, where there's these sudden turns. He said, and that's what it means to be Jewish. To be Jewish is dramatic. There are sudden turns in history. And it's one of the best descriptions I've ever heard about what it means to be Jewish. And that is what the holiday Hanukkah is about. It's very dramatic.
To listen to the podcast, go to our website at israelnewstalkradio.com and click on the Soul Talk program. You've been listening to Mordechai Sones at Israel News Talk Radio.
It's the holiday of Hanukkah. Hanukkah is not just about the miracle of the candle oil burning for 8 days. It's much deeper than that. The Hanukkah story recalls the struggle for religious freedom from the Hellenistic Syrian Greeks who were occupying the land of Israel at that time. The Syrian Greek king Antiochus sought to crush the Jewish identity of the land and pass decrees against the practice of Judaism. Pagan Hellenistic rituals and sacrifices were instituted in the Holy Temple, desecrating the sacred center of Jewish ritual life. Jews were forbidden from studying the Bible, forbidden to keep the Sabbath, and forbidden from circumcising their children into the covenant of Abraham. To do so meant the death penalty. This oppression was too much for the Jews, and it was Matityahu, a Hasmonean who lived in Modi'in with his 5 sons, who rose up, and they became known as the Maccabees. After 3 years of guerrilla warfare against the strong and powerful armies of Antiochus, the relatively small and poorly armed Maccabees won, and they liberated Jerusalem. They found a small flask of oil to rekindle the menorah in the temple, but it was only enough oil to burn for 1 day. However, miraculously, the oil burned for 8 straight days. Clearly a sign to show us that the war against the Syrian Greeks, the superpower of that day, by a small band of brave Jews, stood up for their religious freedom, and it was truly a miracle. Israel News Talk Radio and all its staff wish you a very happy Hanukkah.
Online retail giant Amazon wants to blanket your neighborhood with internet service. It's called Amazon Sidewalk, and it will use existing devices like the Amazon Echo and Ring security cameras to create a low bandwidth network that will share a small portion of internet service from you and all your connected neighbors to keep everything online. Amazon says the shared network will help devices work better, simplify device setup, and keep devices online when they're out of range of your home Wi-Fi network, a problem more people are facing as we connect more Internet of Things devices to already overworked Wi-Fi routers. As for just how much of your home internet service Sidewalk will require, Amazon says about 1/40th of that needed to stream a high-definition video, and they won't take more than 500 megabytes a month, about the size of a 10-minute HD video. All of the data will be encrypted to ensure privacy, so you won't have to worry about sharing the network with neighbors. With Box on Tech, Brett Larson, Fox News.
Welcome to the Hanukkah edition of Israel Unplugged. This is where we bring you the unadulterated facts of where we're holding in the redemptive process, focusing primarily on the ingathering of the exiles. No spin, no twist, just the facts on the ground. My name is Josh Wander. I'm speaking to you from Yerushalayim, Ira Kodesh, the holy city. Nes Gadol Haya Poet, and the dreidels that we spin here in Israel, it says this is where the great miracle happened. We can discuss that as well. This is where one of the only holiday that we celebrate today that actually occurred here in the land. I'm going to be joined by my co-host, Rabbi Moshe Lichtman from Beit Shemesh.
Yes, I'm here, and wish you all a great, happy Hanukkah. And yeah, that's one of the issues we're going to talk about today, the Nes Gadol Haya Po, and then that's not just, a little, child's play, so to say. It's actually a very significant aspect of the holiday, the fact that it was Po here in Israel as opposed to in the diaspora. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
I'm also going to describe some meetings that I had recently with some of the chief rabbis, some of the great rabbis here in Israel, speaking about Aliyah and coming to Eretz Israel and the whole the halachic, the Jewish law aspects of that. And we're also going to play a little bit of clip from the great Rabbi Barrel Wine, vintage wine, and see what is going to be my co-host's reaction to that. We're going to discuss a very interesting thing that he has to say about the decay in America in general, and specifically to the Jews in America and what they are, what is about to occur to them from a historic perspective, which they may not be aware of. I would encourage all the listeners to go to Rabbi Lichtman's website, which is at Toratzion, TORATZION.com, as well as to our website at bringthemhome.org.il, and to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Israel Torah. We will see you soon. Don't leave.
Be biblical. Be beautiful. Wear your crown.
Wrapping is my crown. Do what married Jewish women have been doing for thousands of years. Celebrate the art of head wrapping. I'm Andrea Grinberg from Rapunzel.com. We have beautiful scarves, stunning accessories, scarves for faith, scarves for healing, and scarves for fun. Rapunzel.com. That's Rapunzel with a W. Or click on our banner on the Israel News Talk Radio homepage.
Rapunzel.com. Beautiful scarves, stunning accessories paired with tutorials, support, and a vibrant community to give you everything you need to start and perfect your head covering journey.
Don't forget, join the Rapunzel community group on Facebook to see, learn, and share your beautiful wraps. That's Rapunzel with a W on Facebook.
I love Rapunzel. I love Rapunzel. I love Rapunzel.
Get 10% off your purchase with promo code RADIO. Go now to Rapunzel.com.
It's Joe Biden's big day. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The Electoral College vote is set in all 50 states to give the Democrat a victory. President Trump remains defiant, still claiming he won and the election was rigged with fraud, telling Fox's Brian Kilmeade over the weekend.
We've proven it, but no judge has had the courage, including the Supreme Court. I am so disappointed in them.
Fox's Rachel Sutherland has more live.
Dave, 538 electors will gather across the country to formally cast ballots for president throughout the day. There could be some defections, but most are expected to conform with their states, giving President-elect Biden 306 Electoral College votes. There are laws in 32 states and the District of Columbia requiring electors to fall in line. And earlier this year, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled states can punish so-called faithless electors. The president's legal team signaling they could press on, saying in a statement, the only fixed day in the U.S. Constitution is the inauguration of the president on January 20th at noon. Dave?
Rachel, early voting in person starts today in Georgia for the two Senate runoffs, January 5th.
We're the last line of defense against this radical leftist agenda that the Democrats are trying to perpetrate on America.
Republican Senator David Perdue on Fox Sunday Morning Futures. Democrats hope to unseat him and GOP Senator Kelly Loeffler to take control of the Senate. The massive coronavirus vaccine rollout is underway. Pfizer has shipped the first 3 million doses to distribution centers across America.
The first round of shipments will be staggered, arriving at 145 distribution centers today. 425 sites will get it Tuesday, and then the remaining 66 on Wednesday. And then more promising news, the Moderna vaccine could be approved this week.
Fox's Ashley Strohmeyer.
Frontline workers and nursing home residents are expected to be the first to get vaccinated.
And also Pfizer just got its first approval in an Asian country, in Singapore. America's listening to Fox News.
From the Fox News Podcasts Network, Getting Schooled with Abby Hornacek.
Fox News Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel. Can you just talk to me about the basics of a filibuster?
Two different versions. There's giving a long speech on the Senate floor to make the point that there is a severe protest about something going on in the Senate. The other way is getting together 40 or more senators to vote against something.
Subscribe and listen now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com.
Class dismissed.
Did you hear the news? Now you can. With instant updates from Fox News for Amazon Alexa. Breaking stories and top headlines. Daily coronavirus developments. The economy and so much more. Brought to you by Fox News, America's #1 cable news network. Plus, setup couldn't be easier because everything's ready to go in the app. Just say,
Alexa, play news from Fox.
In Fox News. It's the latest when you need it. On demand from Fox News and Amazon Alexa.
Now back to the coronavirus vaccine. A recent AP survey found about half of Americans either won't get it or aren't sure.
So we need to vaccinate a significant number of people in this country, including those who are hesitant.
That's FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn. One reason people aren't so sure is safety or side effects, which have been shown so far to not be serious.
As was seen in the vaccine rollout in Great Britain, there were issues with allergic reactions to components of the formula. FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn on ABC's This Week says the Pfizer label warns to watch for that. But the agency is taking an extra step to fight allergic reactions.
We also, out of an abundance of caution, have asked at the distribution sites be available those medicines that might be necessary to address it.
The FDA says a study of the vaccine in Britain showed allergies were rare and did not last long. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Now, this comes with the coronavirus surge as bad as it's ever been. The other day, record new cases and deaths, and we today could top 300,000 in the total number here in the U.S. The number of COVID patients in hospitals set a new all-time high yesterday, topping 109,000. Now, on Wall Street, stocks could soar to start a new week. Dow futures up more than 200 points. In the NFL, the Pittsburgh Steelers, after starting the season 11-0, have now lost 2 games in a row.
Here's Allen throwing, man down. Diggs got it inside the 10. Diggs to the goal line and in for the Buffalo touchdown.
The Bills beat the Steelers 26-15 on NBC, but Pittsburgh clinched a playoff berth anyway because Kansas City beat Miami 33-27, and the Chiefs clinched their division title. The Green Bay Packers also clinched a division title, topping Detroit 31-24. I'm Dave Anthony, and this is Fox.
A lot of people out there looking for work, and companies are starting to hire again. The interview process can be time-consuming, leading companies to struggle to find the right talent. An Israeli firm is developing an online platform called My Interview, which helps streamline the interview process by allowing candidates to record a video interview from the convenience of their own laptop computer. Hiring managers create a list of questions that candidates should answer. The product comes with templates and questions for sales, manager, and customer service roles, as well as a dashboard to manage the hiring process. Hiring managers review the videotape responses, shortlist the best candidates, enabling companies to identify and hire the right talent, and employees to land their dream jobs. For more information on the high-tech world today, visit IsraelTechTalk.com. With your INTR Tech Minute, I'm Bob Aiello.
Welcome back to Israel Unplugged. This is Josh Wonder from Yerushalayim. I'm so happy to be here with my co-host, Rabbi Moshe Lichtman, on this beautiful Hanukkah here in Eretz Yisrael. Hanukkah is a holiday that is celebrated throughout the world by Jews of all denominations. Many of them are Orthodox, traditional, religious, and many of them, I would say maybe the majority of them, are not. And this always brings up a very interesting discussion when we start to speak about what is the history, what happened on Hanukkah, and what exactly are we celebrating today. Rabbi Lichtman, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that's always, been a wonder to me, how so many Jews throughout the world keep this holiday, which in reality, anyone who really studies the history behind it will know that it was really a fight between the religious Jews and the non-religious Jews. Or, everyone knows it was a fight between the Jews and the Greeks, but it was really, there are two words in Hebrew. There are the Yevanim, which means the Greeks, and there's the Mityavnim, which were Jews who became like the Greeks, who went over to the side of the Greeks and wanted to be like the Greeks. And
the Hellenists.
The Hellenists. Oh, right. Very good. I forgot about that. I forgot that English word for it. And, to a certain degree, and the Jews, the religious Jews, led by the Hasmoneans, right? They fought not only the Greeks, but also the Hellenists. And we celebrate the victory of Torah, of Orthodox Judaism, let's call it, over all the other types of Judaism, the ones who wanted to make compromises in Torah observation, observing the Torah, I should say. So, therefore, it is a little funny that everybody, even the secular Jews, celebrate this. I mean, I have what to say on that, but let's hear what you have to say, Josh.
No, I was just thinking, we famously speak about Purim and the differences between the two holidays of Purim and Hanukkah, and that Purim was when we were, the attempt at our physical annihilation when Haman, a descendant of Amalek, tried to physically annihilate the Jewish people. He tried to wipe out the Jewish people, similar to what happened during the Holocaust in Europe. But what is not, or maybe less known, is Hanukkah is not about that at all. It was about a spiritual battle. The Greeks had no problem with the Jews being around. They just had a problem with them being Jewish. And there were certain... Religious. Well, that's what I mean when I say Jewish. I mean that they
observing.
They had problems, and they had specific bans on specific Jewish practices because the concept was that they had the Jewish practices went totally against. They were the antithesis of the philosophies of the Greeks. So they could not handle the Jews being Jewish. That always reminds me when I say that of a famous thing there. Nachman Kahana was once walking down the street, and somebody saw him, and he looked like he was a rabbinic figure. So they went over and they said, "Are you Jewish?" And he thought for a minute, and he said, "I'm not Jewish." He says, "I'm a Jew." He says, when you have a color, and the color, let's say red, and it's not quite red, so you say it's reddish. Or if it's yellow, but it's not quite yellow, it's yellowish. So he says, I'm not Jewish, I'm a Jew. There's no ish involved. So there were Jews in the times of the Greek that were Jewish, like the, what did they say, like kosher style, but they weren't practicing Judaism the way that we consider traditionally as Jewish should be practiced. And they were the majority. That was the problem. The problem was less the Greeks, and perhaps more so the Jews that assimilated to Greek culture.
Correct. So therefore, the question is, how is it that so many Jews celebrate it today, even those who do not observe other Torah commandments? And, you could say, of course, it's out of total ignorance. They just don't know the history behind it, because if they would really, really study it and know the history, they'd say, I don't want to celebrate a holiday that celebrates my demise, right? The downfall of those who were not Torah observant. But I think it's a much easier answer, and that is that there is a big difference between the Hellenist Jews and the secular Jews today, and that is that the Hellenists they were brought up religious, and they purposely left the fold of Judaism, and they went over to the side of the enemies of Israel and fought against the religious Jews. They really fought against religious Jews and religion. And those type of people are really, I'm sorry to say it, but are evil. They are evil Jews. And, sometimes we say, sometimes our worst enemies are our own people. And those type of people, we celebrate their demise. But the vast majority of today's secular or irreligious, however you want to put it, Jews, don't really know better. They were brought up in a society and in families that they themselves didn't really know very much about Torah Judaism. And it's almost like the concept that we have in halacha called a tinok shenishba, a child. If a child is kidnapped by Gentiles and brought up as a Gentile, he is not held accountable for the fact that he's not keeping Torah mitzvot, because of course not. He wasn't brought up with that. And I think to a very large extent, that is the case with most Jews today, non-observant Jews. It could be that the ones, a few generations ago who broke off from religious observance and became secular, they are more like the Hellenists. And they are people who we really want to fight against. And that's why so many rabbis fought against the reform and conservative movements. The movements themselves are something we should fight against. But today's Jews are not. In fact, the Rambam, Maimonides, when he discusses this, he talks about the Karaites. And the Karaites are the Jews who didn't believe in the rabbinic Judaism. They only kept the Torah as it's written, only the written law. And the Rambam says that the children of the Karaites are Tinok Shenishba. He says that very clearly. So the original Karaites, they are evil people. They are wicked, and we want to fight them. But the ones who are their children and were just brought up that way, they don't know any better. And therefore, that's what I think the reason is. And I think it's actually a fantastic thing that they are keeping this holiday. At least they're keeping something. At least they are connected to the Jewish people by way of this holiday and other small aspects of Judaism that they keep.
Rabbi Pesach Lerner, who I had on my podcast several weeks ago, corrected me when I said that the majority of Jews in America are Reform, and he said that is incorrect. The majority of Jews in America are Jewish. They're totally assimilated. They're not Reformed. They're not anything.
Unaffiliated.
They have no concept of what, besides knowing that they're Jewish. That's about as far as their religion goes. They know nothing else, and that just gives more support to what you're saying. That with definitely the majority of Jews in America today are totally ignorant when it comes to Jewish law and practices, and that's why you find I suspect, and I hope this is not correct, but I suspect that there are many Jews in America that the reason that they are so involved in the holiday of Hanukkah is because it often falls out on the calendar at the same time as another non-Jewish holiday falls out, and they're sort of competing, and unfortunately that's turned into a situation in which sometimes you'll find people having a menorah and also a Hanukkah bush because they think that is part of the cultural. In fact, I just heard a horrible story today that my wife told me, that somebody at her work who is an Orthodox Jew said that they mentioned about taking off on the 25th of December. And my wife was a little bit surprised and said, there's only 2 Christians that are working with her in the hospital, in her unit, whatever it is. She says, why would we make such a big deal out of this? And the vast majority of people in the hospital are not celebrating. And the response from this Orthodox Jewish person that works with her colleague, was, what do you mean? I celebrate. And she's like, you celebrate? She says, yeah, it's a cultural thing. She's an Orthodox Jew from England. And she says it's a cultural thing that we take off on December 25th and we celebrate in whatever way. I don't know. I'm sure they don't have a tree in their house, but they take off and they celebrate it as a cultural holiday, as a national holiday. So you see the inroads that it's taken. That even within Orthodoxy, people are so confused to think that there's some sort of connection between this time of year and these foreign concepts. It's something that we see over and over again. And I think this is a perfect segue to what we discuss in general here, which is the return of the Jewish people back to Israel. One of the amazing things about living in Israel that everybody speaks about that lives here is the fact that everything here is Jewish, right? That the calendar is a Jewish calendar. We barely know that any other religious holidays exist. Everything goes around. You can actually, this is something that's less known, that you can, when you're signing a check or a contract, you can write the Hebrew date. You don't have to write the non-Jewish secular date on it. You can write the Hebrew date, and it's legally binding. Living here is even if you are living a life which is devoid of religion, it's really hard to escape the fact that there's something going on around you, all the time. I mean, the fact that everything revolves around these religious holidays and traditions is something that you can really not avoid in living here in the land of Israel. And that's why there's so much less assimilation here in the land of Israel than you have in countries outside the land. Please stick with us. We have a lot more to discuss on this topic.
Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Did you know this psalm and many others were composed by a Jewish shepherd and musician who later became a king? Would you like to know some of the inner meanings of psalms to help you connect with God and strengthen your soul? An exciting and easy-to-read book is now available which will help you do just that. Software for the Soul, Psalms for Everyone, available on Kindle, Audible, and Amazon.com. Software for the Soul.
Modesty at the beach? It isn't just about body image. It's about feeling good. Modest swimsuits, so we don't get burned by the sun.
So we won't get ogled by strangers.
So we'll feel free to express ourselves without the need to expose ourselves.
Let Marcy Modest help you to cover up what you want, how you want.
Made in Israel. Visit marcymodest.com. That's MARSEA modest.com.
And get a 10% discount on your first purchase.
2 new shows on Israel News Talk Radio.
The return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel was prophesied in the Bible thousands of years ago and is coming true today. Shalom. Join me, Josh Wander, on Israel Unplugged. Listen in as we delve into the spiritual and physical aspects of the Jewish return to Zion. We'll discuss the biblically mandated, historic, and of course practical understandings of this incredible transition from exile to redemption. That's Israel Unplugged, every Monday on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
How did a nice Jewish girl from Delaware end up living in Israel? Shalom, I'm Natalie Sapinski. Join me on my show, Returning Home. Meet different people who have moved to Israel. Hear their personal stories, their highs, their lows, and everything in between. Each week, we talk to experts on immigration and the process of moving to Israel. Listen to Returning Home every Thursday, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Israel Unplugged. This is Josh Wander again with my co-host Rabbi Moshe Lichtman. Fascinating things. We're living in an incredible time, and being here in Eretz Israel where the miracle of Hanukkah occurred. It's just incredible to be here, and I am fortunate enough to be serving in my position in the reservist in the IDF. I was just telling Tamar off the show how great it is to be a soldier in a Jewish army on Hanukkah. What that means to me, and how proud I am to be able to serve my people. So this week I got a little bit of time off where I was able to go and visit two of some of the most influential rabbis here in Israel today. One of them is the head of the Haredi, the ultra-Orthodox community, which, just for some background, is not known to be Zionist. In fact, in many cases, is considered to be anti-Zionist, which is always fascinating. I'm always reminded of my friend here that in the old city of Jerusalem that was here for many years, Yaakov Fogelman, Zichrono Livracha, he created a bumper sticker that said, "God is a religious Zionist."
yes.
So I mean, it's hard to deny it, depending on how you define Zionism. If you define it as a strictly secular movement, then it means something to someone. If you just find it as traditional Judaism, it means something totally different. So I got to visit, got an audience with Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky in Bnei Brak. He's an elderly rabbi in his 90s, and it's not so easy to get an audience with him. But when I spoke to him, the first question I had was to him. I asked him whether it is a commandment, an obligatory commandment, a mitzvah chiyuvit, to make aliyah, to come for Jews that are living outside the land to come to Israel. Is it an obligatory commandment? And this we've spoken about it on the show before. There's a whole discussion whether it is obligatory to come to Israel or whether once you're here, then you're fulfilling a commandment, but it's not obligatory. You don't have to get up and leave. If you happen to be here, then you're fulfilling a commandment. And he unequivocally said his position, which it is absolutely a obligatory commandment for Jews around the world to get up and move to Israel and to live here, which again is something you would usually not hear from this rabbi of his stature in these communities. The second rabbi got
because before you go on, that's because people just make a big mistake when they equate Zionism with the land of Israel. Of course, there's a lot of connections, but these are two separate things. There were plenty of big rabbis who were anti-Zionist, but there never has been, never will be a rabbi who is anti the land of Israel. You can't be, because the Torah is filled with it. Every rabbi understands, okay, there might be a rabbi who holds that it's not actually an obligation to live here. But, you shouldn't be surprised if you hear of a big rabbi saying that and even though he's anti-Zionistic, to say, of course you have to live in the land of Israel. He's not saying you have to live in the state of Israel. He's saying you have to live in the land of Israel.
So that is a whole discussion in itself. As far as the differences between the state of Israel and the land of Israel, and what the similarities are, what the connections are, whether it's the same thing or when it's a different thing. And I'm sure we will discuss it on future shows. But the second person I got to visit was a Hasidic rabbi, the head of the Breslov community here in Israel, a famous Kabbalist, also in his 90s. His name is Rabbi Yaakov Meir Schechter. And I got to be there for his candle lighting, which was a big honor. And I also got to speak to him about this idea that our project that we're involved in trying to educate and inform Jews around the world of the importance of living in Eretz Yisrael today. And he gave me an incredible bracha that I should be successful in trying to influence as many people as I can, because and how important it is specifically today. So again, both of these people are not the typical rabbis you would consider to be Zionists, to have a Zionist position, but definitely when it comes to the Jews moving to the land of Israel today, they were unequivocal about their positions. Now, I heard a podcast this week, and it was of the famous historian Rabbi Beryl Wein. And he was speaking about the decay of society in the world, and specifically in America. And that the subject is not really relevant, but he was speaking about the legalization of marijuana. And I just wanted to play you a short clip about what he said and see what your reaction to that would be.
And, well, it's interesting. But this is part of the dissolution of America. America's falling apart. So this is a piece of it.
And where else do you see it? Like, what would you, if you had to build a picture here, what would it look like?
What, America?
Yeah.
You don't see it?
Look, I see a lot of change. To say I don't have the expertise to say it's falling apart. I don't look at it.
You don't see that there'll come a time there won't be It won't be easy to be a practicing Orthodox Jew in America?
For legal reasons or just...
Yeah, for governmental reasons, legal reasons, social reasons.
In what way, Rabbi Wein?
Well, they'll tell you it's not healthy. They told you already you can't come and daven, you know? You can't have more than 10 people. So they'll have another excuse.
Yeah. Well, the Supreme Court came down on
right, so the Supreme Court, but he'll do it again, Cuomo. The people are with the votes are with Cuomo, not with the Supreme Court.
Right. So you see it as a further expression of the decay of society.
That's right. And the Jews are unfortunately part of it. They don't get it. They don't see what's happening.
When you talk about the Jews, you're talking about Jews like Schumer?
No, they're gone. I'm talking about our Jews.
And in what way are we contributing?
Because we have trained ourselves to live a life of excess, of luxury, of mosros, and that became normal. Guy makes a wedding in Dubai because he wants to have 500 people. Are they crazy?
Right. Yeah. Well, hopefully, everyone, one good thing that may come out of this is weddings may become smaller. No.
God willing, the coronavirus will pass. After it passes, it's not going to get smaller.
Okay, that was the quote of Rabbi Wein. He clearly was very, very open about his position that the America, and specifically for Orthodox Jewry, is in a decline, and the primary reason he gives, and that directly relates to the holiday of Hanukkah, is the Hellenization, so to say, the luxuries that we've become so used to and been intoxicated by in America, and perhaps that is what is holding the majority of Jews there today. What do you think?
Not that Rabbi Wein needs my haskama, my approbation, but I certainly hear what he's saying and agree to a large extent. I wanted to pick up on something else. I for so many years when I would talk about the fact that every other exile ended in tragedy for the Jewish people, and they had to move from place to place to place, and finally we have the land of Israel back, and that we should all come and live here. I actually had a hard time saying that, it's going to happen in America also, or it could happen in America also, because there was no logical way to even fathom any kind of scenario that could happen that America could become antagonistic towards Jews. And now we're seeing that it's not such a far stretch to say that it could happen in America too. It doesn't mean that they're going to set up concentration camps in America. Chas v'shalom. I don't think other exiles that ended in tragedy also didn't end with concentration camps. It wasn't as to the extent as the Holocaust. Each one was different. In Spain, they were just expelled. There was no one killed. The Jews were expelled from Spain. The Jews were expelled from England several times. So who knows how exactly and what exactly is going to happen, but it's not so crazy to think of a scenario anymore of how such a thing could happen. And that's because we have to understand that these things don't happen out of the blue. They don't happen per chance, coincidentally. They happen because God wants them to happen. And if God wants the Jewish people to leave the exile and come back home, and they're not listening and they're not willing to do it willingly, so then God has to do it in some other way, and he'll find the way. Don't worry. He knows what he's doing. He will find some way to get the Jews to wake up and to understand that it's time to leave. That was a very interesting piece by Rabbi Wein. Thank you for sharing that with us. What do you think? What do you think about what he said? Josh, are you with us? Right. Josh, just for our listeners' knowledge, so Josh just went out to light the candles. According to the Vilna Gaon, you're supposed to light candles at sunset, And that's exactly what Josh just went to do. I will be lighting a little bit later, even though I usually do it at sunset also. But anyway, let's talk about we only have a minute left for this segment, and we'll continue this afterwards. But I want to discuss what I think are the similarities and the lessons that we could learn from the Hanukkah story to our day and age. You know, when it comes to Jewish holidays, they're not just a celebration of things that happened in the past. They are lessons for us for the future, because there are plenty of other events that happen in Jewish history which we don't celebrate till this day. But these holidays, including especially Hanukkah and Purim, which were not written in the Torah, which were added by the rabbis later on, it must be that these holidays have some message, eternal message for the Jewish people, something that we could learn and apply to modern day. And that's what I want to discuss right after the break. So please stay with us. We'll be back shortly, and we will discuss this issue.
Are you interested in transforming your life, drawing closer to the Creator, and uncovering the deeper meanings and hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
and me, William Hall,
on The Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds. So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey y'all, I'm Chelsea, and I was born and raised in Cajun country in the heartland of Louisiana. Listening to Israel News Talk Radio has broadened my horizons way past the rice fields.
Hi, this is Gordon from Southern Indiana. I'm listening to IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
Hello, this is Hank Poach from the Netherlands. We love Israel, and we love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
We love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. Around the country today, members of the Electoral College meet in their states to cast ballots for president and vice president.
States have certified their election results, showing a win for President-elect Joe Biden, as President Trump's legal challenges have been roundly rejected in federal courts, including the Supreme Court. Federal courts, like this weekend in Wisconsin, have ruled on the merits of the case and found the president and his legal team lack the evidence to back their claims.
Fox's Rich Edson. In New York City, a man firing gunshots outside a church during an outdoor Christmas concert yelling, "Kill me," is shot and killed by police.
Recovered is a bag that we believe belonged to the defendant. Inside this bag was a full can of gasoline, rope, wire, multiple knives, a Bible, and tape.
NYPD Commissioner Dermot Shea says the man had 2 handguns. He says the man had a long criminal history. No one else was hurt. America's listening to Fox News.
Shalom Aleichem, this is Shai Ben Tekoa of Phantom Nation, speaking for Israel News Talk Radio that wishes you, its listeners, a Chag Sameach Hanukka, a happy festival of lights commemorating the victory of classical Jewishness over its rival, the Hellenist reformers.
Shalom, this is Natalie Sapinski from the show Returning Home, and I want to wish you all a happy and joyous holiday.
Shalom, I'm Bob Aiello with your INTR Tech Minute, wishing you a Hanukkah Sameach filled with the miracles of Israeli technology and innovation.
Shalom, this is Orly Benny Davis, host from Jerusalem with Love, and I want to wish you all a very happy holiday.
Hello, this is Mordechai Sones, your news anchor, wishing you a happy holiday. To all of you from all of us at Israel News Talk Radio.
Israel News Talk Radio and all of its staff wish you a very happy and joyous Hanukkah holiday.
Okay, welcome back to Israel Unplugged. This is our last segment, and we're going to discuss, as I said right before the break, the similarities between the Hanukkah story, which happened thousands of years ago, and the story of today, the modern day, and especially the reestablishment of Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel in 1948, and the whole return to the land of Israel of our days. So it goes like this. We know that we say Hallel. One of the main aspects of the holiday of Hanukkah is the recitation of Hallel. Those are verses or paragraphs from Tehillim, Psalms, which we say they're very joyful and praise, psalms of praise to God for the miracles that he did for us at the time of Hanukkah. So there is a Gemara, Talmudic discussion, which repeats itself twice in the Babylonian Talmud, once in Arachin 10b and once in Megillah 14a, where the Gemara asks, okay, we understand why we say Hallel, why we say these paragraphs of praise on Hanukkah. Why? Because a miracle happened. What miracle are we talking about? Well, seemingly we're talking about the miracle of the oil that lasted 8 days, but there, of course, is also the military victory of the few over the many, right? It will be a whole discussion in of itself to really discuss. We'd have to get a historian here to really tell us the numbers. But the Jewish people, or the religious Jewish people, were far, far outnumbered, and they won the war against the greatest, world power of the time, the Greek Empire. So there were miracles, and the Gemara says that's simple. It's simple why we say Hallel on Hanukkah. And again, that's one of the main aspects of Hanukkah. Even though everyone knows about the lighting of the candles, it's beautiful. The Gemara in Shabbat, when it talks about it, says it was said that the holiday was set as a time of Hallel, of praise of God. So then the Gemara asks, okay, we understand Hanukkah, but what about Purim? I know it's not Purim, but you're going to see this is very, very relevant for Hanukkah. The Gemara asks, why don't we recite the Hallel on Purim? Right, Josh, you familiar with this Gemara?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So there's three answers given in the Gemara as to why we do not recite Hallel on Purim. The first answer is, it's Rabbi Yitzchak, and he says that we don't say it on Purim because we do not sing praise, we do not say Hallel for a miracle that occurred outside the land of Israel. The whole Purim story happened in Persia. It happened outside the land of Israel. And that's why we don't say Hallel on that miracle. But the miracle of Hanukkah happened in the land of Israel, right? It was the Jewish people fighting for their sovereignty here in the land of Israel. Now, we don't have enough time to really go into that and explain what that means. So why? So what? So who cares that the miracle happened? Why God didn't do the miracle outside the land of Israel? So there's really two answers, and I don't have time to really elaborate on it. But basically, one explanation is that, yes, miracles done outside the land of Israel are not done directly from God. They're done through his ministers, his angelic ministers, because God has angels in charge of all the rest of the world, but in Israel, he is the only one in charge, so to say. So a miracle that happens in the land of Israel is directly done by God, but a miracle that happens outside of Israel is done through an intermediary, and therefore we don't say Hallel. Another explanation that's given is that the Jewish community, no matter how large outside the land of Israel, is lacking in terms of its status as the Jewish people. Now, that really needs a lot of elaboration, and I don't have time right now to do that. But the only true Jewish community in the world is the community of the Jews in Israel. And even though at the time of Hanukkah we were a minority of world Jewry, but this was considered the Jewish people. The Jewish people living in the land.
Am Yisrael and Klal Yisrael.
Klal Yisrael, exactly. Of course, Jews living outside of Israel, of course, are called Jews. They are Jewish, of course. But the collective category of being the Jewish people, the Kalal Yisrael, the assembly of Israel, the collective of Israel, that's only in the land of Israel. And therefore, a miracle that happened to the Jews on the Purim story, which was the majority of the Jews in the world, is considered as if a miracle happened to individual Jews, and that we don't say Hallel for. Right? Let's say you were driving and a terrible accident happened and you came out unscathed. So that's an amazing thing, and there's actually a special bracha you might have to say. I'm not posketing here, but you might have to say a special bracha, but that's only for you. And you don't say Hallel. Hallel is only for a miracle that happened to the Jewish people as a whole, and that's only the Jews of the land of Israel. So that is all one answer, Rabbi Yitzchak's answer. The second answer the Gemara gives is Rav Nachman's answer. He says something very shocking, that really we do say Hallel on Purim. And you'll say to me, no, we don't. I've been celebrating Purim for decades. I never said Hallel on Purim. You're right. But you know what? You did read the Megillah on Purim, correct? The reading of the Megillah is a form of saying Hallel, of saying praise to God. Because think about it. Why does it have to be verses from Psalms? Why can't it be verses from the scroll of Esther? And that's exactly what we do. We do say Hallel. And think about this for a second. This is a very important point that I want to make. And that is that the miracles that happened in the Purim story were not manifest miracles. It wasn't like the Hanukkah story where there was an actual supernatural miracle that the oil lasted longer than it should have physically, naturally, right? In Purim, there was no supernatural miracle. It was all behind the scenes. It was all God, making things happen. And nonetheless, we say Hallel in some form. And the third answer is the very important one. Rava says that you want to know why we don't say Hallel on Purim? Because the salvation was incomplete. On Purim, we still were slaves to Achashverosh. We weren't saved. We didn't gain sovereignty over the land of Israel because of the Purim story. But in the Hanukkah story, we did, as the Rambam writes, that for 200 years we had sovereignty because of the Hanukkah story. So it ends up like this. I'm gonna read to you how I summarize this in my book Eretz Yisrael and the Parsha, and then Josh, you're gonna comment on it. Okay, I'm gonna leave you to comment on it. 60 years ago, a third of our nation was wiped out in the concentration camps of Europe. 3 years later, Hashem, not an angel, right? It wasn't like the Purim story that was done through an angel. Hashem arranged events, and no, he did not perform any manifest miracles. The establishment of the state of Israel was not any manifest miracles. It was the hidden kind of miracle. And he arranged things in such a way that we regained sovereignty over our historic homeland after nearly 2,000 years of exile. And based on everything we saw above, is there any doubt that we have an absolute obligation to thank Hashem, to thank God for all that he has done for us? Josh, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So absolutely, it's unbelievable that we're living in a generation, we're living in a day and age where many people don't realize the miracles that we're seeing before our eyes. People don't realize that, if you spoke to somebody just a mere 70 plus years ago, and you told them that soon there would be millions of Jews back in the land of Israel, there would be a rebuilding of Jerusalem, of its capital city, with almost 1 million people, a bustling city with almost 1 million people in it, they would look at you like you're insane. Today we're living with these in miracles unfolding before our eyes, and most people are oblivious to it. But the miracles are still there. I remember we had the clip with Rabbi Beryl Wein. Rabbi Beryl Wein is fond of saying how his father, he used to go into his father's office, and he would look into his drawer. He wasn't allowed to go into the drawers, but he was a kid, and that's what the kids do. So he would look into his drawers because his father used to always have a special drawer. And he would open up the drawer of his desk, and he would find all these stamps from Palestine. This is before the state of Israel was in 1948. And his father, whenever he would get a letter from someone, from a relative, from a rabbi, in Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel, he would save and cherish the stamps that came from the land of Israel. There's a story told of the Netziv, the famous rabbi of the Volozhin Yeshiva in Europe, that when they brought the first bottle of wine that was produced by, I believe it was Carmel Winery in Rishon LeZion, and they brought it to him in Russia, and he got into his Sabbath finery. He put on his big day Shabbat in order to greet this bottle of wine, because it meant so much to him that he's seeing just a bottle of wine that was produced in the land of Israel. That was miraculous enough for him. But today we're living with a Jewish government and a Jewish army, and everything's Jewish, and people cannot see beyond their noses to understand that the time of the redemption has actually come. It's actually happening right now. And for that is the whole purpose of this show, in order to encourage our brothers and our sisters around the world to get up and come home and join, as Rabbi Lichtman just said, join Am Yisrael, the people of Israel. Don't just suffice to be Klal Yisrael, to be part of a Jew that is somewhere in exile, but come home and be part of the nation of Israel, be part of the destiny of the Jewish people. Thank you, and join us again next week.
Hey, this is Jake in Anchorage, Alaska, and I love listening to all the super interesting interviews and up-to-date information on what's happening in Israel.
Hello, this is Anna King, originally from London, now living in Israel. And what